Hello, I'm Jennifer Whitson, Senior Public Information Officer with the Office of Communications for the New York State DMV. And this is the Commissioner's Corner, where you'll hear from Commissioner Schroeder on all things DMV. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Glad for you to join us today.
Good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for this opportunity.
Well, today we're going to talk about winter recreation in New York State. But before we dive into that, first of all, let's talk about snow. Do you love it or do you hate it?
Well, you know where I'm from. I'm from where you're from. We're from Buffalo, and so I love snow. And I can remember the blizzard of '77, and I can also remember Johnny Carson was taking pot shots at Buffalo because of all the snow we got. And the executive director of the Buffalo Convention Center threatened Johnny Carson that if he doesn't tone it down, he's going to go into his Buffalo warehouse where he makes men's suits and bust out all the zippers, break everything on them. And so Johnny Carson calmed it down a little bit and then started talking about Watertown. Because, Watertown and up north, they get a lot of snow as well. So I love snow. I can remember the first time I ever went skiing. I went with who I thought was my friend, Dave Kornbeck from Waynesville. And he said, "This is simple when you go skiing. All you got to do is put the skis on and go straight down the hill."
But
No.
the trees came too fast.
Oh my God, you don't go straight down the hill. You got to do this thing, right? And so that was rough. But even in my marathon days when I was running marathons, mostly in the spring, you would train in the wintertime, and I would run 20-mile runs in Buffalo's snow. You just get used to it. And then there are enthusiasts out there who just love it, and that's the subject matter of what we'll speak about today, right?
Exactly. Here we focus on snowmobiling. Snowmobiling is a recreation that the DMV is heavily involved in because snowmobiles must be registered.
Right.
Can you talk us through the registration process for snowmobiles?
Yeah, so for the first time, if you're a first timer and you want to register your snowmobile, you would have to come into a DMV office. And so as you know, DMV out of, the Albany headquarters here, we run 27 DMV offices, mostly in metropolitan New York, in Long Island. But in upstate New York, county clerks are DMV agents, and they are really tremendous in this field of snowmobiles. They understand it. They understand how great it is for New York. They understand this comes under the classification of tourism. They do understand that DMV plays a role in it. They have to be knowledgeable when people come in, either from New York State or out of state, and they are very, very good at it. And so there are great partners across New York State. And then if once you do the first time in person with us, then thereafter you can do it online. Everything's going online right now, right? That's the way to do it. And so it's a very simple process. Anybody who's listening right now who is interested in maybe doing the snowmobile thing, just go on the DMV website. It's very clear to what it is that you have to do in order to register here in New York State.
Now, because where we're located, we often get people coming in from Vermont, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. Can you talk about if they're bringing a snowmobile in the process of getting a temporary registration?
Yeah, that's the key word. You just used a key word. It's temporary. It's a 15-day temporary registration pass. So if you're coming from any of the contiguous states or Canada, you would be able to come in and get a 15-day pass. Now, one of the things that I know that we'll talk about, and this is something that the governor Governor Kathy Hochul is really big on, because I've mentioned to you before, and you know that she is the only governor in New York State history who actually has run a DMV. So she knows about every single thing we're talking about right now. She gets it. She knows it. She understands it from a DMV perspective, but she also understands it from a governor's perspective. Tourism is very important, and she also knows that there are contiguous states and there are Canadians who love to come to New York to snowmobile. That's one of the reasons why she'll be making an announcement about the free weekends. And that's going to be a great opportunity for all out-of-staters and those from Canada to be able to come into New York and to completely be able to do this snowmobile for free. So it's part of the tourism opportunity. I can remember, way back when they started the I Love New York campaign. And I'll tell you, there are people who just love to come to New York. I mean, you see it every day when you're in Manhattan. But also, there are those who really love winter, and they love the four seasons. And so therefore, they'll spend a lot of time in upstate New York as well.
Now, is the registration a requirement that weekend?
It's waived. It's actually waived for that weekend. But that's a good question. Thank you, because I wanted to clarify that for all New Yorkers.
Can you talk more about the trails? Because we have some really amazing scenery up here.
Yeah, we do. And so there's about 10,500 miles of trails. And it's mostly across upstate New York. Now, you don't see many trails in Manhattan, right? But there are opportunities for those who live in the city and Long Island and other areas of metropolitan New York. But these are trails that are all over the state, and it is something that's important because of the tourism opportunity, and then state parks. They would play a vital role in this, DEC. But there's also hundreds of snowmobile clubs across New York State. And these are very good clubs. They're very smart. They're very conscientious. They understand the laws of New York, and they understand snowmobiling. I can remember traveling here from Buffalo to Albany in mid-December, and there was a president of a snowmobile organization on, and he was communicating to the listenership and also to those who ride snowmobiles to be extra careful and to play by the rules, because snowmobiling doesn't really open until hunting season has closed. That's key, because public safety is so very important. And that's one of the most important things that the governor talks about is public safety, affordability. This is the reason why she wants to have the free weekends in March, because she wants all New Yorkers and those who want to come to New York to really enjoy themselves here in our state.
Now, when people get their registrations, those fees go to preserving the riding in the state as well, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. So everything having to do with snowmobiling, in terms of how DMV interacts, a lot of it goes to the preservation of the trails. And as you know, I mean, in December, we could get a lot of snow during mid-December, and then maybe in the last part of December or January, there's no snow.
Right.
So that means the snowmobilers, they really have to depend on when the weather is good. And so that is the reason why organizations like DEC, state parks, different organizations across the state are so important. And this really also is when, county clerks who really play a major role here. County clerks are elected officials. We deal with 51 county clerks in upstate New York who serve as DMV agents, but they also live in those
areas,
counties,
right.
in those areas. And so they know their constituents. They know what their constituents want. They know where the trails are. They're aware and alert to make sure that everything works well. And they also have relationships, with public safety officers and the sheriff's department and with all of the different agencies who are involved in this. So it's really an opportunity for everybody to work together.
One of the things that you hit on earlier is the safety aspect of it. Which is very, very crucial. Can you just give us some tips and stuff of things that snowmobilers need to consider before they're heading out?
Yeah, so back a long, long time ago when I was a kid, I would just be able to hop on a buddy's snowmobile and then off you would go. But times have changed and things are different now. And we are very careful about public safety and about communicating to New Yorkers, especially children. So we always encourage everybody and anybody who goes on the snowmobile to be safe, to make sure that you wear what is called a Snell. A Snell is a customized snow helmet for snowmobiling, and we would encourage everybody to wear it. There are opportunities where there are some snowmobiles where you can have a partner go on with you, and so we think that these things are all fine, but also you need to really be aware. Especially snowmobilers, they really need to be alert. I don't think I have to tell snowmobilers in New York State, do not drink and go on a snowmobile. Do not be impaired. Do not be on your phone when you're trying to operate this piece of machinery, because it doesn't make any sense. Think about it. Not only do you have to navigate the trail, but there are certain times when the trail will end and you may have to cross over a road, and there's signage everywhere. Counties, the different club organizations, they do a great job to make sure that if you're just driving down the road, that you understand there could be a snowmobile coming through, and vice versa. Snowmobile needs to be aware that there could be cars going by. So we just have to make sure we're working with each other so that on that Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, everybody can have fun and nobody has to call Mercy Flight, to have to go to the hospital.
And also, we have to be careful to make sure that you have a plan in place if you come upon bodies of water, and to take caution to not go out there, because that could be very, very dangerous.
You need to be aware if there is a body of water that's frozen and you can ignore it, stay away from it, because there's really no trails that are going to take you over that. They may be contiguous or close by or nearby, but it's unsafe to go on it.
Well, with that, we are reaching the end of another episode. But before we go, when you go out in the snow, what is the one most important piece of gear or clothing that you have to have before you go out in the inclement weather?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on what I'm doing. I will tell you, if I'm going out for a walk with the dog early in the morning or going for a run, the very first thing I do is I put on a hat that has a flashlight on it, or I will put on a old hunting vest that's orange that I have in my closet. I'll put that on, especially if I'm going to be out any time of darkness, but especially in the winter, because in the winter it feels like it's always darkness. Right? I drove this morning from Buffalo to Albany, and I left Buffalo at 6 o'clock because we're getting snow. And for 3 hours I drove in darkness. And so, and I often say, when my wife and I go out, we'll say, oh my God, look at, you could see an object or something, maybe a half a mile up. And it's a person who is dressed in dark clothes who's crossing the street. And I just say to myself, dear Lord, put on something that others can see you.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us today.
Happy to be with you. Thank you.
Well, New Yorkers, that concludes another episode of the Commissioner's Corner, where you'll hear about all things DMV.